Nigeria, right, in West Africa. A lot of them have developed canning companies where they process the food that they normally eat out there, that their people is known for, that they love, like stuff like palm butter and cassava leaf and stuff like that. They prep it and they get it, canned and whatnot, and shipped to countries where their people may be and want to eat, right? And when you go and look up any of these companies up, you can go to any one of these African stores or whatnot and look at these ingredients, write down the name and look that company up. I guarantee you, sitting at the top in that company is a Edomite. This is an African country somebody put together, right? And he's making his paper, he's serving his people, he's giving them whatever. But there's an Edomite sitting at the head of that table. You look at the Saudis with all the oil and stuff they're getting. When you look up the heads of those oil companies and whatnot, there's an Edomite sitting at the head of that table. You know what I'm saying? It don't matter. Diamond, rubber, whatever. They're sitting at the head of whatever company table that's profiting and grabbing some. There goes Esau, sitting right there, man. How can you say it's not him? But let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of the heaven from above. And by the sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke off thy neck. Now it says that he shall live by the sword. You would think that that's a blessing that his father's giving him. Now, I picture that when his father's saying that, I picture tears rolling down his dad's eye, because I believe Isaac knew the scripture, right? He knew it. That's not a blessing. The scripture says, he that lived by the sword will what? Die by the sword. But yeah, it is. His father is telling him, by the sword he shall live. That's a curse. How did the so-called white man, I'm gonna put it that way, gain the land that he got now? Isn't it not even documented in history that they had some German Berlin conference to divide up Africa and how they was going to go in there to strip the resources? All Edomites, by the way, sitting at a conference talking about how they're going to go in another land and exploit the resources. And you think they went in there with hugs or contracts and any papers? They went in there with the sword. How did they get this very land where the natives were before they came? Did they come in giving them hugs? They came with the sword. Again. You know what I'm saying? So how can you hear that, see it correlate with history, how it's playing out, and still say, oh no, it's a coincidence? Like, it's telling you who Esau is. Right? It's telling you who Esau is. But our people are hard-headed. They don't want to hear it. Let's keep it going. Everybody has a biblical identity. You know what I'm saying? They want to hide from it, though. So they think by changing their name, they distance themselves from whatever the scripture says about them. What is that? Oh, a second. Everybody has a biblical identity. Psalms 49:11. Psalms 49:11. Like all of these clues they're giving you about Esau, he's the one that go around. I believe the scripture says he names the lands after himself, roughly paraphrasing, right? And he goes around naming these different places after himself, places he conquers. That's another clue. But we're gonna bring this one out, 49:11. Because I believe that's his biggest weakness. That's his, you know what I'm saying? He's very prideful. Esau is very prideful. (49) Esau is very prideful. Always jumping in shit that don't concern him. You know you gotta be a prideful motherfucker when you've committed the most atrocity. Never answer for it, which goes into a whole nother thing. You know what I'm saying? That goes into a whole nother thing because Cain was cursed. The Most High told Cain that he would be a vagabond, roughly paraphrasing, and a fugitive. And we all know what a fugitive is. Somebody that's escaping judgment. Somebody that's escaping, you know what I'm saying, judgment for what they done. But like I said, that goes into something else because Esau is Cain reincarnated because we come back every 3-4 generations, right? So, but that, like I said, that goes in, and I don't want to get off topic, but that goes into that, you know what I'm saying? He's committed the most atrocity on the earth and has an answer for it, but yet and still, he will point fingers to other people and say that this person is a tyrant or a dictator or whatever and needs to go before the world court. But yet, you've never stood before the world court for what you did to the blacks, the natives here on this land. You have an answer for that. But we all know what's been done. I mean, you can look this up. What when people talk about the Holocaust and the thing that the Germans were made to do for restitution, you can look it up. There's Googleable information. You can look this up. They have some kind of a sensitive training. They got monuments and all types of other stuff that they made them do, you know what I'm saying, for what they've done. But yet you would never hear a German say, it's not us, it wasn't us that did it. You know what I'm saying? They don't never, but when you bring up slavery, that's the first thing they tell you. Well, we don't own no slave and you wasn't there, you wasn't no slave and da-da-da-da and all this other stuff to kind of like diminish what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? But yet, they made the Germans pay restitution. I'm going to just say that, restitution, but you can look it up. It's a whole list of things they had to do and they continue to do to this day. Right? But when we bring up what was happening, oh, you wasn't there and we didn't own no slave. Even what's his name? Ben Affleck, when he found out his family, when he was doing some documentary on PBS or something like that, and he found that out, he tried to tell him, yeah, don't release that information, and he didn't want to do the thing. He was ashamed of that. You know, trying to cover that up. They don't want to talk about it, but they quick to point the finger at somebody else, right? You gotta be a prideful motherfucker to be on some shit like that. This is Psalms 49, verse 11. It says, their inward thoughts is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own name. Yeah, that's the one I was talking about. Yeah, that's Esau. His inward parts. He think that his shit will go on forever. This motherfucker is already planning 10, 20 years about what they finna do and shit. Like, tomorrow's promised to nobody, but you can't tell Esau that. Matter of fact, if you own a credit card, look at that shit, or a debit card, look at that. They'll tell you expire, and they'll give you like, what, 4 or 5 years? You know what I'm saying? They always think it that far ahead because they just, it's hubris. You know what I'm saying? They very proud. They just think that this shit is going to go on forever with them on top. They really believe that. You know what I'm saying? And yet, people will still not get that. That this is who the scripture is talking about. This is Esau, man. You know what I'm saying? Even, there have been many of other white scholars who's done documentaries, written books. You know what I'm saying? That the so-called white people walking around today are the children of Esau. They're descended from Esau, right? And you got to understand, just like Israel had a bunch of different kids, Esau had a bunch of different kids. Esau had an Arab wife, an African wife, you know what I'm saying? Women of other nations, and he had a bunch of different kids. He had another son called Amalek, who the Amalekites descended from, right? And that's well, actually, that's not his son. That's his grandson. Salah. That's Esau's grandson, and that's who the so-called Jewish people descend from. They're really Amalekites, right? They're descended from Amalek. But you can't tell our people that. You know what I'm saying? But then, like I said, there've been white scholars who've written books, done documentaries about this, and talked about this. They know who they are, man. So when you see the goofies on TikTok and other social media trying to lead you astray or make you think it is something else, man, that's just smoke and mirrors. That's just them trying to hide. That's just them trying to hide. But according to the Bible, man, Esau, the so-called white man today, is Esau. He's descended from Esau, man. Plain and simple. And there are judgments waiting for him and his kingdom, along with the other nations as well. And that's why these people are changing their name. Like, I saw this thing a while back. I did a post about it, and TikTok made me take it down. Because so often you'll go through your TikTok shit, if you're like me, and try to see if you're in good standing. I forget the process, but I know how to go through it. I just can't articulate it right now. You go through the process, and it will do little check marks on all your videos to see which one is not violating any of their guidelines or whatnot, right? And then you go through there, delete it or redo it or whatever. And I did a video about that. Like the so-called Jewish guy, he did a video, and then I did a sketch to it. They made me take it down. No problem. I took it down. But really, all I was saying, because he said that they've kept the tradition. They've kept the tradition for forever. Like, for real? Y'all kept the tradition? Like I said earlier, the name Israel in Paleo-Hebrew, Lashawan Kadash, the holy tongue, is Yahshua Allah, which translates to Prince of Power. The name itself holds weight, but y'all call yourself Israeli. But you hold to tradition. Israel didn't pick that name.